I'm not a traditional student. Well beyond I thought my college years. But my story is very unique, very wonderful, and I'm very in a blessed position to attend Tuskegee University. I was one of the first black women to actually have a hemp license. So I started entering into the farming scene, but I noticed that the soil was not good at all. And I was invited out to Tuskegee's B2W to talk about growing hemp. And I spoke and someone noticed me and asked me could they bring Dean Hill and Dr. Mortley, which is the top scientist at Tuskegee. They came out, they visited my farm, and they asked me would I be willing to actually come to Tuskegee with a full paid scholarship. So I'm in a blessed position. I have to admit, it was so scary to make the decision because one thing I told Dr. Hill, so funny, I was like, I'm an adult with adult bills and responsibilities. You know, you start thinking about how would you be able to make it in a situation of going to school, but I think my mentor truly encouraged me, like Chera, the degree is extremely important. You have the vision, you know how the science works, but sometimes to enter rooms and break down certain doors, it is so important to have the degree behind it so that you can kind of overcome some situations. But definitely, I think Tuskegee was a great move because George Washington Carver, I have learned so much from him. My innovation is taking Afro hair and using it. And when I say Afro hair, I mean hair that comes from black barbershops, chemical free. I process it down for a product for fire retardant, water conservation, and products that's really is great to be used for climate change. And another wonderful aspect of the product is fertilizer, which inside the strand, it has all the nutrients that is needed for plant growth. And I know you're saying, wow, but if you go to the website, you will see I can actually take the Afro hair and produce it into a mat. And before the homeowner actually lays his sod down, he puts this mat down that is going to hold water, but actually it's a natural component to provide the nutrients to the sod to keep it really, really green. Black representation is so important because when I think about it, when I was a little girl, I never thought I would be ever in the science field. I never saw people that looked like me in the science field. When I thought about scientists, I always thought about a white male or someone of an Asian background. And to just be in a field of science, to encourage women, number one, and then encourage people of color to actually pursue a field in science or become innovative with products in the science field is a great opportunity. I think it's very important that we see it. We see individuals that look like us that are in certain fields. And I think it really encourages people that look like me to actually want to pursue a career in science. Well, right now, the landscape of agriculture is changing and is not for the good right now. Right now, we have a fertilizer shortage and an increase in prices. So you're talking about 80% of a rise in price, which I'm quite sure is stressing the farmer and also affecting our prices in what we buy for the food. Added to that component, we use and depend on natural gas to create our fertilizer, a lot of our fertilizer in the United States. And with the war going on, we're not able to get that natural gas from Russia, who holds about 30% of the reserves. So using and trying to transition a different product that could possibly be used for fertilizer is very important. our water scene is really in danger as well. If you look at what's happening with the Mississippi River, our water is directly linked to our food chain. And a lot of people think that water is something that is always going to be around. And when I say our water, I mean our drinking water. We are not going to get more water. I know people think that when it rains that that's new water, but it's not. It's water that has been recycled, evaporated back up. So we're having to transition ways and develop product that we can actually conserve water, that we are not going to be in a potential of running out of water. Oh, this vision has been created years and years and years. I started my cosmetology field probably when I was at the age of 16. And I vividly remember my cosmetology teacher, who was Caucasian. She told me when Black people relax their hair, that you will know your customer is a smoker because the relaxer is going to turn green. I was like, wow, that's weird. But when I did get in the cosmetology field, that fact was so true. And that happens because we use the chemical relaxer actually to break the outside strands, because we're trying to straighten the hair. So as those strands are broken, and a smoker, that actually nicotine is a nitrogen based component, and when that outside layer is broken, then the nitrogen is released and it turns the relaxer green. Well, I'm applying the same concept with the hair that is placed underneath the lawn mats, because the bacteria in the soil is decomposing the hair. So once it breaks that outside bund of the hair, nitrogen is released. That is what we use to keep our lawns green. Not only that, the water holding properties of it, instantly the roots of the lawn or the sod wraps itself around that mat, because it recognizes it as its water and its food source. Those are things that kind of run this vision about. When you think about wool, if you Google in your phone, wool is one of the strongest natural components to actually resist heat or fire. And wool, in my mind, the closest thing to wool is black hair. If you don't relax it, if it's in its natural form, it has a woolly texture. So I remember reading it, and I just instantly went in my garage. I took, the barbecue grill lighters, and I applied it to some of the process there, and it did not burn. I was like, wow. And I started actually trying to develop product, and it's very compatible with wool. So that was one of the visions that I had in my mind, or one of the things that drove me to kind of research further into the product, and it definitely stands up to what it says that it's going to do.